Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon, hosting from Los Angeles, where I'm surrounded by sunshine and palm trees.
I'm Frank Isola. Los Angeles? Why did I come down to D.C.? What am I doing here?
Oops.
You're supposed to be right here.
Frank, there was a marine layer this morning. You spend time out here. I mean, there was gray in the sky from dawn until noon.
He's in beautiful L.A. and he's
That's
complaining.
tough sledding.
You see that? It's cold in New York today. Then I came down here, it was also cold. So take that into account.
68 here, a little chilly. Welcome to PTI. Tony has the day off, so I am happy to be joined by our great friend who traveled all the way down from New York City to sit in the studio alone, Mr. Frank Isola.
Right here. I came here for all this.
See, you got to welcome. It was worth the trip. We're going to begin, sadly, with the end of the season for Juju Watkins. The Southern Cal star will miss the rest of the NCAA tournament after tearing the ACL in her right knee in the first quarter of last night's win over Mississippi State. Frank, where does this leave Southern Cal and the entire women's tournament, for that matter?
Yeah, it's certainly a devastating blow for the tournament, a big-time blow for USC as well. When you think about Juju Watkins, you turn on the TV, she's everywhere. Either you're watching her play, you're seeing highlights, she's in every commercial. She and Paige Beckers have become, the two faces of college basketball. I'd actually put Juju ahead of her just because it's LA, it's a much bigger market. For USC, it's going to be tough. Can they get to an Elite Eight where they would play UConn for the second straight year? Absolutely. But you can't tell me that it doesn't take a little bit away from the tournament. Maybe they would have played UCLA at some point, which has been a great rivalry already this season. I felt so badly for her going down. And I also think the way that the crowd treated Mississippi State, I mean, come on, folks. That was not a dirty play. It was unfortunate. Players get hurt all the time. It's a physical sport. I get the emotion of it. Absolutely. When you see this great player going down, you see it carried off the court. The reaction, in some ways, understandable, but it's not fair. The player, that was just a hard play, nothing dirty about it.
Frank, I'm glad you mentioned that. And as we mentioned, I'm here in Los Angeles. A short drive, you can walk, as you know, over to the building where that happened. And I was here a couple of weeks ago to watch Juju Watkins in person. It's thrilling.
Yep.
I mean, she is a star. Her stardom is bigger than just women's basketball. She's a star in Southern California. And to watch her play in person, I mean, there are people coming out from all over the place, coast to coast, to sit and watch her. So not just the tournament, but sports in general is lessened by her absence. And, given the time that she's suffered this injury in late March, you don't know how long. This has often been a year injury. What does that mean for next season for Southern Cal? And I should mention that there is a player on Southern Cal's team. I'm not about to dismiss Southern Cal. And Kiki Iriafen, who is a star in her own right, who had like 36 points.
That's right.
I don't want to say in relief, because you know whose season is over, who doesn't have a chance to win, is Stanford, from where she transferred down to Southern Cal, because they're missing her. And she's another star in the making also. But Juju Watkins, a full-fledged star who you can see all over your airwaves and not just in the game. And I came out here 2 weeks ago, not on a work assignment. I just wanted to see her play, her among others. And so Kiki Rice and others in the Southern California scene of women's basketball. And so it's really disheartening today to be here and know you're not going to see her again this season. And we wish her all the best coming back from this. People do come back. Paige Beckers, who you mentioned, has come back from a serious leg injury. And so we hope the best. Sadly, it ain't going to be in the next couple of weeks. 1,700
points for her this season. That's the second most by a sophomore. Kelsey Mitchell has the most. And if Juju had played a couple more games, she's going to have the most points after 2 seasons of college basketball. Yeah. It's amazing, too, about USC kind of being back on the map, and they've become kind of this celebrity team. Because you and I know back in the 80s, when it was Cheryl Miller, the McGee sisters, Cynthia Cooper, the great teams they had. They haven't made the Final Four, USC, since 1986. They haven't won a national championship since '84. Like, we remember those dominant teams. It's been a while, and this team was certainly good enough. Now, they can get to a Final Four. Mike, whether or not they can win 4 games without that player,
without her,
that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, but there's going to be certainly a lot of energy behind them.
That's right.
I'm betting. Let's move to the latest plot twist with the Lakers and Mavericks. LA fell by 12 in Orlando, the Lakers' second straight loss since LeBron returned from that groin injury. And in Brooklyn, as you sat for to see yourself in person, Frank, Anthony Davis finally returned from his ab strain, and the Mavericks rolled over the Nets. So which, Frank, Lakers or AD's return is the bigger deal?
Well, it's going to be the Lakers just because they're 3-7 in their last 10 games. And in the 7 losses, what's happened to them defensively? They've lost those 7 games by an average of 15 points, almost 16 a game. Your Chicago Bulls and your guy Kobe White, they put up 81 in the second half. Last night, Orlando put up 60. And then J.J. Redick's talking after the game about how we look tired, which you don't want to hear at this time of the year, especially with LeBron having missed the last 2 weeks. You think he'd be ready. One thing, though, about Anthony Davis, and I did get a chance to see him last night, at a time of the year, and you know the way March works in the NBA, you got guys missing games, they're resting for the playoffs. Nikola Jokic, I get that he's carrying an injury, but they're getting ready for April. Anthony Davis, what's the incentive to come back? And here's a guy that's taken a lot of criticism over the years. He came back and played last night where it doesn't look that good for Dallas to make the playoffs. But Nico Harrison was there last night. Jason Kidd, there's so much pressure on that organization. They wanted to win that game with Anthony Davis. So I give him credit for coming back. What it all means, can they get 10th place? I don't know. Being in the lottery might be better. But I thought it was interesting that he did come back at a time when so many players miss games.
Frank, I thought it was impressive. And I liked listening to Anthony Davis's comments afterward. You could see it meant something to him. And he said that. He was very frank about it. I need to come back and be with these guys given everything that has gone down here. And Anthony Davis, as you know, we've been around Anthony Davis for years now, more than a decade. He's a nice guy anyway, from A to Z. His whole time we've seen him in public life. But I think that he's really impressive now because you're right, the incentive, he could take the easy way and say, you know what? Maybe we should be in the lottery. Maybe I shouldn't risk anything more. No, he didn't do that. And so I think the Mavericks could have some energy, some sympathetic energy behind them as they maybe try to get that 10th spot and get that play-in spot and wrestle it away from whoever's left, the Suns and
Sacramento.
Sacramento. But the Lakers are interesting because I did think it was going to take time for them to sort of work LeBron back in there, even though he wasn't out for that long, Frank. I thought it was going to take time, and I know Luka's been great in that time, several games without him. But the Bulls, who have a thing going on that nobody cares about except Chicagoans, where they've won 8 out of 10, and you look at this threesome, and people they might know Kobe White. They have no idea what else is going on with our rookie whose name they can't pronounce, who I can barely pronounce, and Josh Giddey. And they crushed the Lakers. They smashed them. They embarrassed them. And so the question to me is this bigger than the Lakers just sort of needing to work LeBron back in? Is the ramp longer than that? Is it bumpier than that? Are there some potholes in this? Because all those teams are bunched, Frank, and it's hard to separate them. And what do the Lakers need and how long do they need before these playoffs start in just a few weeks?
Yeah, a couple of things. Number one, you mentioned Kobe White. You know that he's the first Chicago Bulls player to win back-to-back Player of the Week honor since your buddy Michael Jordan. No, Michael Jordan.
Ooh.
First one to do it since Jordan. That's a while ago. And Anthony Davis last night, this is how much Dallas wanted to make sure they won that game. And he was on a minutes restriction. He played about 27 minutes. It was like a walk in the park for him. He had 12 points. He was dominant in the minutes he played. They actually brought him back in the game, up 19 with 4:39 to go.
Again,
they did not want to lose that game last night. They really did. All right, meanwhile, tonight's NBA action features Jimmy Butler's return to Miami. Why isn't Mike there? It's going to be the first time since the Heat traded him to the Warriors last month. Jimmy calls it, quote, just another game, says he isn't curious about how the Miami fans will receive him, and adds of his time with the Heat, quote, we made some cool runs, we had some fun. Sounds like me and Mike hanging out together. I think that's all we did. Mike, do you believe this is really just another game for Butler?
Not for 1 second, no. Now, I do believe that he's going to just the fans and tune them out, and Miami is not, I mean, let's face it, it's not Philly, it's not New York, it's not Boston, it's not Chicago, it's not Detroit. And barely paying attention half the time, as we know there. They've been better the last few years, but they're barely paying attention half the time. They're like, oh, Jimmy Butler was actually here for a while. And it was more than just some fun. They got to the finals a couple of times, and Jimmy Butler was great in those playoff games, in those series. I sat courtside as you did for a lot of those games and a lot of those dramatics, and I give the Heat a lot of credit for what they did, even though I know they didn't cash in ultimately and win a championship. But is it just another game? No. And didn't Kevin Love speak to that? He was one of many. And if we sat down sort of behind the scenes and turned the camera off and said, Jimmy, what do you really believe? We'd get a different answer. But does he care what the fans think? No. Yeah. Jimmy Butler's too big for that, too good for that, played in too many places for that.
Yeah, so number one, the game tonight, as you know in Miami, it's a late arriving crowd. So I think the video tribute is going to
arrive at all.
It's going to take place during player introductions. So whatever reaction may or may not happen, I don't think it's going to be that powerful.
No,
but Jimmy Butler, and this is why I think he's done a pretty good job in the lead up to this. He hasn't really trashed the Miami Heat, and he really has no reason to. But they're 16-4, the Warriors are with him. They're 4-17 since the trade, and that includes a 10-game losing streak. So he's letting the results speak for themselves. But I give the Heat credit for this, for giving a video tribute, and if they don't do it, they're going to get criticized, because no matter how you look at it, Jimmy Butler essentially held them hostage for a couple of months. And everything he says about the way he was treated, he was unhappy. If they had paid him, this all came down to money, Mike. Originally, he didn't even want to go to the Warriors. He wanted to go to Phoenix because he knew he had a deal in place if he got traded there. But because of Bradley Beal and the no-trade clause, it wasn't going to happen. He's happy in Golden State. Yes, he's with a great team, but he got an extension. So if he had gotten the extension in Miami, everything that he talks about, the back and forth with Pat Riley, the suspensions, leaving practice when he found out he wasn't starting, it all came down to the contract extension. That's what it always was about with Jimmy Butler.
But now it's come down to one team being 4-17 since that trade, and the other one being, I think, 16-4.
Yep.
And so Miami's falling behind the Bulls. Right now, if that 9-10 series took place, the Bulls would have the home court advantage. That's unthinkable a month ago, Frank.
You're right.
So the story to me is entirely Golden State. I don't care what Miami does from here, and they can't do anything to me this season. Now that they got rid of Jimmy Butler, they're going to be in the lottery. They can do something in the offseason. Fine. Miami's always a story during the season. They have more than a culture. They have an organization which knows what it's doing. But in the short term, this is about the Warriors.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's take a break. Coming up, Duke and Florida have been putting up impressive wins, but which is more vulnerable Thursday night?
And does Kentucky, or a team coached by Kentucky's old coach, stand a better chance of making it to the Elite Eight? Toss up next. Surprise
so
around
people
Miami.
should know I'm not rooting against Miami. I'm rooting for myself to be a prime 112 often. But that's done now.
Yes,
that's
for
done.
A couple of years.
The Golden State Warriors are the story, and they better not trip up too much either, because they could be in the play. Time for Toss Up. Frank Isola will be playing the role of the Washington Generals. You know who the Globetrotters will be. What's first?
Toss up, more vulnerable number one seed on Thursday night, Florida or Duke?
Well, I mean, Frank, this is really interesting. I mean, Florida and Duke have some winning streaks. Florida, 8 in a row. Duke, 13 straight games. Yeah. Florida gets Maryland. And people unfamiliar with Maryland, don't know the last names Queen and Reese necessarily, and they're learning them. Because Maryland was the last names Queen and Reese necessarily, and they're learning them. Because Maryland, which had lost a bunch of at-the-buzzer games, including one in Evanston, Illinois, won one this past weekend and advanced, and it was pretty thrilling. But now they get to deal with that Florida point guard, Walter Clayton Jr.
Yeah.
We're around enough NBA people to know a lot of them think that he's the best point guard in the country and is going to be ready to play in the league next year. So, I think Duke going against Caleb Love, who was at Carolina, played against him and twice already.
Yep.
Frank, and you might think, okay, do they own them? And we know how difficult it is and how coaches worry themselves to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, even more so when they're going against a conference team they've beaten twice and they're okay, I got to sell my kids on how difficult it is to beat them a third time. And I think that's what I'm going to take as opposed to Arkansas. Arkansas goes against Texas Tech.
Yep.
But in Arkansas, by the way, if is there a darling in this tournament? No, there's no underdog in this tournament.
Yeah.
That may attach itself a little bit to Arkansas and Cal, but I'm going to say Kentucky's more vulnerable, already having beaten Tennessee twice.
You know, you think about Kentucky. It's the first time in the Sweet 16 since 2019. I'm happy for Mark Pope. I got to cover him for a couple of years when he was in the NBA, played for the Knicks for 2 years. Terrific guy. But see, you don't want to go down that road with Arkansas. You don't want to call them a Cinderella at a time when none of the teams in the Sweet 16 are from a small conference.
That's
it's
why
Cal's first year there.
Darling.
I know it's nobody wants to look at John Calipari as the darling. They started out 0-5. He had injured players. Think about the job DJ Wagner. You remember, you were at the Final Four when Milt Wagner's grandfather was playing, that was the Jordan Final Four.
That's right.
And Georgetown as well. But Arkansas has got a little something to them, and they were really good against St. John's. Everyone talks about how poorly St. John's shot, 2 for 22 on 3. Arkansas was 2 for 19,
shoot it either.
And they won the game.
Yeah.
So, Arkansas. That
sounds like we're both leaning toward a couple of upsets here, if you can call them that, Frank. That's it. Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Celtics get a scare from Jason Tatum.
And a big night in hockey as the top two teams meet in Winnipeg, of all places. Say it. Admit that Calipari is the underdog of the tournament. He's the darling. Say
darling,
it.
Yes. I'm not going. Time to get happy, people. Happy 25th birthday, Sha'Carri Richardson. The American sprinter won 2 medals at last year's Paris Olympics, silver in the 100, gold in the 4x100 relay. In the latter, she ran the anchor leg, taking a shaky handoff from Gabrielle Thomas and bolting from third to first. Richardson's success in Paris contrasted with the disappointment ahead of the Tokyo Games in 2021, when a positive marijuana test led to a month-long suspension, which led to her absence from the competition. Richardson recently indicated that she intends to travel to Tokyo in September to defend her 2023 world title in the 100.
You know, she'll be 28 for the LA Olympics, and she wants to join that group of Americans who've won the 100. Evelyn Ashford, Florence Griffith-Joyner, of course, Gail Devers. 28 years old, though, for a sprinter, maybe she can do it. Maybe.
Star-studded event.
Yep.
And star-studded people she's following on the American side. Happy anniversary, Dusty May. On this day 2 years ago, May and his 9-seed Florida Atlantic Owls beat 3-seed Kansas State to reach the Final Four. The Owls would go on to lose by 1 to San Diego State in the semis, but the accomplishment was unprecedented for FAU. Prior to that run, the Owls had never won a single NCAA tournament game. In 2024, FAU made it back to the dance, falling to my Northwestern Wildcats in OT of the first round. Head coach Dusty May then left for Michigan, which he has in this year's Sweet 16. The 5-seed Wolverines face 1-seed Auburn Friday night, Frank.
You know, Dusty May used to be a manager at Indiana. When the Indiana job became available, his name was out there. Guess what he did?
What a path.
Got an extension.
Yeah,
smart guy.
Pretty well.
Dusty May. Good agent,
Happy trails, Jason Tatum. It's kind of melancholy because Tatum left last night's Celtics win over the Kings in the third quarter after spraining his left ankle, came down on the foot of Sacramento center Domantas Sabonis while hitting the 3. Sabonis, who slid underneath, was whistled for a flagrant 1. Tatum briefly returned to the game, made 1 or 2 free throws, then headed for the locker room. He told Ramona Shelburne the ankle is just sore and the team is going to be cautious. The Celtics appear, Frank, to be a lock for the 2nd seed in the East with just 10 regular season games remaining.
You know, this has been a complaint of Tatum and the Celtics. They feel that a lot of guys are invading his airspace when he lands, so it'll be interesting to see how that's officiated on Tatum for the rest of the season.
All right, we got to run to the big finish. In the women's tournament, Maryland beat Alabama in double OT. Despite the tie, Sarah Ashley Barker scoring 45. Your thoughts, Frank?
That was a great, best game of the tournament. Brenda Fries and the crew in College Park, though. Good win for them. The Pacers beat the Wolves for their 5th straight win. Is that significant?
Yeah, Pacers are rounding into shape. The Wolves, 3 or 4 losses. They do it, they befuddle you. AZ Fudd's going to return to UConn for her senior season. What do you think, Frank?
She's been injured before. I'm a little surprised. She and Paige Beckers are good friends. I know Gino Auriemma is happy. The TGL season ends tonight with the Atlanta Drive trying to close out in New York. Are you excited?
No. I'm more excited about AZ Fudd coming back for her senior season. Wishing her the best. Last one, East leading Capitals, West leading Jets play tonight. Frank, who you got?
How about Alex Ovechkin, 7 goals in his last 12 to break Gretzky's mark? Do you want to win that? Do you want to finish with the best record in hockey, though? We know what happens with the best record in the regular season.
Yeah.
Jets could get it. Capitals could get it. We're out of time. Thanks for watching. I'm Frank Isola.
I got Ovi scoring 2 goals tonight, including empty netter. I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. And now, the Sports Center.
PI bonus topic.
Okay, Frank, how big a loss is Juju Watkins for the women's tournament?
I think it's big because when you looked at the bracket, it looked like you'll get UConn and USC in the Elite Eight, just like you had last year. And that would be Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins, the 2 biggest names in the sport right now. I put Juju on top. She carries herself like a star. She plays like a star. She looks like a star. And this tournament's always been about, yes, the coaches, the teams, the programs, but it's about some big stars. And she has that star appeal. Whether or not they can win 4 more games and win a national championship, their first one since 1984, that'll be difficult. But when you take a player like that out of the tournament, and I know there are great teams, South Carolina, Texas, Notre Dame, UConn is always UConn. There's still terrific teams there. Not taking anything away, but you miss a lot when you don't have Juju Watkins playing.
You do, Frank. You mentioned, how big a star she is, and she's a big star here in Los Angeles.
Yep.
Where can you be a bigger star? She attracts big stars. I came to the game a couple of weeks ago, UCLA against USC, and there right at courtside were, among others, John Legend and Mark Wahlberg. Stars want to come and see Juju Watkins, and this is her second year. They wanted to see her in her first year. She just got better. She's also just got a pleasing way about her. She is good for not just the game of women's basketball, but basketball and sports here in Los Angeles. And so, man, it's a downer to see her go out like that, to see her in that kind of pain last night on the floor. But let me mention, Frank, that there can be silver linings in this.
Yeah.
We're not going to see that UConn. Let's not say we're not going to see it, because USC can still get there, okay? They got a full team. And also, Paige Beckers and AZ Fudd, who missed time with knee injuries. They missed tournaments, 23 and 24 for UConn with knee injuries. They're back. They're back now playing in 25. We have to presume, I want to presume, that Juju Watkins is going to be back and healthy and playing again. And I know these knee injuries has often plagued some great women's basketball players and the sport itself. Hopefully that's not going to be the case, and we're going to see her back again.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned UCLA. I omitted them. I shouldn't have done that, with Kiki Rice and Lauren Betts. And those 2 teams, which met, of course, in the Big Ten Championship in Indianapolis, where else would USC and UCLA play? They still could play one another. The problem is Juju Watkins won't be there. That's it. We're done. Back to you.